B'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we begin Parak Asiri, the 10th chapter in the Rambam Hilchos Nedarim, the laws of vows and the Sefer Aflo. We continue the theme of the previous parak regarding the importance of understanding of the wording and the context and what its definition means. In this parak, the Rambam discusses regarding the timing of the vow in the context of what the person is saying and how we are able to quantify the limitations of the timing of that neder. As Rambam begins halacha aleph regarding establishing the designated time of how long is this neder for. Hanoider or hanishba. If someone takes a vow or an oath, she'eni toim hayem, I'm not going to taste today. So today is in the asel ad shetechshach. It's only forbidden up until it gets dark. Where halachically then it starts the next day. Let's say says she'eni toim yom echad. I'm not going to taste one day, not today, one day. Then asem eis leis mishas neder. Then he's forbidden for 24-hour period, which is a day from the moment he takes his vow. Now lefikach, therefore, since if the vow was for one day, it would be forbidden for a period of 24 hours. So in actuality, if someone takes the vow, she'ani toim hayom, that I will taste today. So, although we opened up the halacha by saying that it's permitted from when it gets dark, he should not eat when it gets dark until he goes and he requests from the sage to be matter his neder, because it's a gezeira, it's a rabbinic concern. Maybe different times he's going to take an oath of one day, not of today, but of one day. And then he's going to eat when it gets dark, which is not the case in that case. You have to wait till 24 hours later. Because not everybody realizes the differences between today and one day. Because of that, even when he says today, he shouldn't eat until it's, again, either one day, or if it's from dark, when he shall neder, as if it's problematic, even though halachically midiraisa, it's already permitted when it gets dark. Halacha base. Nadur shani toyim yoim. Let's say a different terminology. It says a vow that I'm going to taste a day. Doesn't say today. Doesn't say this day. Yoim. So it's a suffix. It's a doubt. Is it like kahayoim, like today, which only forbidden up until it gets dark, or is it like one day, which should be going to be forbidden for a 24-hour period? So therefore, because of the doubt by Nedarim lahachmir, we say it's forbidden for 24 hours, as if he said one day. But if he ate after it was already dark, in like is not going to last just as if he said today. Let's say he says similarly, shani toim shabazu. He says I'm not going to take a neder if I'm going to taste anything this week. What's this week? It's forbidden for the rest of the days of the week. Let's say it takes it on Monday for the rest of the week. Including the coming Shabbos, which is after the week, which concludes the days of the week. But starting Sunday, he's going to be permitted, because even though it didn't pass already 7 days when he took the neder, but this week ends by Shabbos. Let's say says Sha'ani Toim Shabbos Achaz, I'm taking neder if I'm going to taste something for a week. Not this week, a week, 1 week. It's forbidden for a period of 7 days from 24-hour periods starting from that moment. Let's say Amar Shabbos Stam. Here again, similar to the case of the day, it doesn't say this week or 1 week. He says week. It doesn't specify 1 week or this week. Again, that's a situation of doubt, which one it's like. So therefore, stringently, it's going to be forbidden for 7 days from 24-hour periods. But if he ate after Shabbos, in like is not going to last the commission around like we explained regarding the day. Halacha Gimel. Let's say he takes a vow, Shani Sheisach Chedesh, that I'm not going to drink for this month. So again, Asur B'Shol Yimei Chodesh is forbidden for the rest of the days of the month till the end of the month. Al B'Yom Rish Chodesh, but when it comes to the following Rish Chodesh, the beginning of the next month, Yemutter, so he's going to be permitted because that's counted from the next month. Now, and the Chiddush is Aval Pi Shahaya, even if the coming month was going to be a Chodesh Chaser, a deficient month, meaning only 29-day month, which would come out that this month that the person is in when he's taking the neder, the month before, must be a Male, which is then a 30-day month, because generally it goes Male Chasa, full or lacking of the month. So therefore it comes out that the coming month, the Chodesh Chaser, is going to have 2 days Reish Chodesh, because when you have a full month, the first day is the 30th day, which is from the previous month, is actually the first day of Rosh Chodesh, and that's the Chiddush, that even so, it would be permitted for the person who took the vow to drink on that quote-unquote first day of Rosh Chodesh, because even though it's really day 30 of the previous month, and the second day Rosh Chodesh is the first of the coming month, which is a Chodesh Chasar, and therefore this past one was Mali, even so, since the people call it Rosh Chodesh, and as the halach is by Nedarim, we go Achalosh B'nei Adam, and therefore a person does not consider it as part of this month, and therefore he'd be permitted even on the first day Rosh Chodesh. Now let's say it says Shani Toim Chodesh Echad. It doesn't say this month. It says take a neder that I'm not going to taste anything for 1 month. So it's not this month. Asher Shleishim Yom Gemur Meis Leis is forbidden for a period of 30 days, which is from 24-hour periods, which the Rambam seems to be speaking about a general month, which is a full month, and therefore it's going to be 30 days. But it means to say the 5th, let's say whatever day of the month it is, 12th of the month, and then the same thing in the 12th of the month in the following month. Now let's say Noda Chodesh Stam, let's say it just says month, unspecified, doesn't say this or one. So here also Shlesh Miyam Meis Leis Masavik is same halach is going to be forbidden for 30 days, for 25 periods, out of doubt that it might mean that of like 1 month. Halacha Dalt, moving along, we're going from day to week to month. Sha'ani Oichel Basta Shana, he takes a neder that he's not going to eat meat this year. So I feel like Nishim Nashana Eli Mechet, even if let's say there's only left from this year 1 day, is on the 29th day of El. So only forbidden that day will be Rosh Hashanah Mutter, and then on Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year, it's already the next year, it's going to be permitted. And for Rosh Hashanah Nedarim, there's a few different beginnings of the years depending for what halacha. So the laws of the first of the year for the laws of vows, Hu Yom Rosh Chodesh Tishrei is the beginning of the month of Tishrei, which is what is colloquially called Rosh Hashanah. Now let's say Shani Eichel Shana Achas. Let's say that if I'm not going to eat not this year but 1 year. So that's forbidden for a full year from day to day to the same day in the following year. Now, from the Sabra Shana, and if it's what's called an Ibriyar, if it's has an extra month to the year, what's called Adar Sheni, Asabo will be Bura, so it's forbidden in it and in its extension, because again, it's still that same day of that month in the following year, which would include obviously that extra month too. Let's say Shani Eichel Shana, doesn't say this year or 1 year, it says I'm not going to eat year. Again, out of doubt, it's going to be forbidden for a full year, like we explained in regarding to the day and to the week. Halacha hey. Let's say it says Shani Sheisa Yain Shabuazem, moving along in the quantities of time. Let's say it says I'm taking an oath that I'm not going to drink wine for this Shemitah cycle, which is a 7-year cycle. So Asa B'Shoshne HaShavuos, so it's forbidden for the remaining years of that Shemitah cycle. Ub'Shna Asa Shemitah, and for the Shemitah year itself, which belongs to the end of the previous cycle, just like Shabbos is the end of the week, Shemitah is the end of the Shemitah cycle. And the Einamutter is not going to be permitted to drink wine, only from the beginning of the year, from the year after the Shemitah ends. Let's say he says, I'm taking a vow, I'm not going to drink wine for 1 Shemitah cycle. So here also it's going to be a full 7 years from day to day from when they took it till 7 years later. Let's say he says Yovel Zeh, this Yovel cycle, which is a 50-year cycle. So also b'sharshne hayovel, so it's forbidden the rest of the years of this yovel cycle, b'shnas chamishim atzma, and also the 50th year itself, which is considered the end of this yovel cycle. Now, halacha avav, the Ram continues regarding if a person specifies and designates the time limit for his neder, how to be able to define that. Let's say it says shani sheisa yain ad rish adar. It says, let's say I'm taking a vow, I'm not going to drink wine until the beginning of adar. So, let's say it was a Jewish leap year, which is an extra month of Adar. But he didn't know that there's what we call an Ibriyar, that there's an extra month to the year when they took the neder. So, in Asa Elad Resh Chodesh Adar Rishon, so it's only going to be forbidden to drink wine to the beginning of the first Adar. Now, the Nada at Seif Adar, but if he took a vow that he's not going to drink wine until the end of Adar, then he's going to be forbidden until the end of the second Adar, because when he says the end, his intention was to be done with Adar, and therefore that would be including also Adar Sheni. Now, the Yad Shoshana Mubes, and if he knew that it was an Ibriyar, the Nada Adresh Adar, and he took the vow to the beginning of Adar, then Asa Adresh Adar Sheni, then he's going to be forbidden until the beginning of the second Adar, because generally Stam Adar is that of Adar Sheni, and therefore, if he said until the beginning of Adar, he meant Adar Sheni. It's only like in the previous halacha where we said he didn't know, then it's going to be until the beginning of Adar Rishon because he didn't know of the Adar Sheni. Halacha Zayin. If someone makes something forbidden on himself until Pesach, so Bein Shama, whether that he says Ad Pnei Pesach until before Pesach, Bein Shama Ad Pesach, whether he says until Pesach, and Asa Elat Shegi Bavad, it only going to be forbidden until it reaches Pesach. Now, but if he says Ad Sheyia Pesach until it's going to be Pesach, then he's saying that it's going to be on Pesach itself, is going to be forbidden on the thing until Pesach passes. Let's say Amar he says Ada Katzer until the wheat harvest, or Ada Batzer until the grape harvest. Oisha Amar he says Achiyiha Batzer Katzer, or that's going to be the grape or the wheat harvest. In the Asa El Chigi is only going to be forbidden up until when it reaches that time of the harvest itself, and because there's no set time for how long it lasts. Here his intention is up until when it starts. As Rambam explains in the next halacha chas. This is the rule. Anything that has a set time, where that is a person knows how long it lasts for, like let's say Pesach, where the Torah says it's for 7 days. The Nadar Adav, and he took a Neder until it reaches that time period. So it's only going to be forbidden up until that it reaches that time period. Now, but if he says until it's going to be, then then it's going to be forbidden up until that it's done with that, as we said in the previous halacha. That's only if it has a set time. But if it doesn't have a set time, like the wheat harvest and the grape harvest, you don't know when it's going to end. So then, then whether if he says the neder up until, or even if he says up until that it's going to be, here in Asa Elachigi, it's only going to be forbidden up until that it reaches the time period, because a person's not going to make a neder to make himself forbidden in something which is an unknown amount of time. He definitely is doing a definitive time period, which is when it starts, and nothing more than that. That's the reason for the discrepancy when he says Achiyah HaPesach in contrast to Achiyah HaBatzar HaKatzer. Pesach is a known time, so you say Achiyah, okay, that'll be until it's over. But Batzar and Katzer, that does not have a set time. Even when you say Achiyah, it's only up until that it reaches, not until it's done. Now, Halacha Test, the Rambam continues on a related discussion regarding a time period which is an umbrella concept, up until Kayetz, up until the Geshem. As Rambam says, Ha'isr Atzmai, if someone makes himself forbidden, Bedavar, in something ad HaKayetz, which that's the time for harvesting the figs, and they're called Kayetz, because like from the word Kayetz is to cut, and something that you cut with your hands. So when he says ad HaKayetz, Hari Asa is going to be forbidden until the people of the place where he took the neder, until they begin to start bringing in the baskets of the figs. That's ad hakayetz, when they start, the kayetz is when they start bringing in the baskets. Ad hakatzer, let's say it says up until the time for the wheat harvest. That's until, he's only forbidden up until that time, which is when the people start harvesting the wheat harvest. But not the barley harvest, because primarily the harvest refers to that of the wheat. Now, Perish V'amar, let's say he specifies and he says, Achiyavar HaKayetz. Although generally he said that it's not a set amount of time, and we said that it's going to be up until, but let's say he says, I want it to be up until the Kayetz, the harvesting of the figs are over, and we're forbidden until the people fold over. The majority of the mats that they have there in those set designated areas behind the house, that they dry there the figs and the grapes, to make them to these dried figs and to these raisins. Everything goes according to the place of where the one who took the neder took his vow. But that's going to be Shayabar Kayetz, is when the majority of the people already finished, the season's already over. That's when he's going to be forbidden his neder up until that point. Halacha Yud Ketzad. How so? So Arisha Nodar B'Bikr. What does it mean? Everything according to the place of the where you're taking the neder. So Arisha Nodar B'Bikr. If someone took the vow in the valley, for us, and again, he made himself forbidden up until the Kayetz, until the fig harvest. Now for Allah Har, then he went up to the mountains, which at the time when they were harvesting the figs. Now, it's known that the kayetz in the valley is earlier than that in the mountains. So, it doesn't look at now where he is in his vicinity now to see, if they're doing it or not. Rather, it's going to be dependent on the kayetz of the place where he took the vow. And that's what he can rely on, where that's earlier in the valley where he took it. He's only going to be forbidden up until that point. He's not going to have to wait for the later Zman over here as it's done in the mountains. Anything similar to that, whichever way it is, it's always going to be dependent on where he took the ned. Let's say someone says he's forbidden something up until they rain. He's going to be forbidden until the time of the rains, which in Eretz Yisrael is Rosh Chodesh Kislev, is the beginning of the month of Kislev, which is the latest time by the third season of the rain, which that has to be by Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Now, Higiyah Zman HaGeshamim, once it reaches the times for the rains, then it's going to be forbidden what he made himself forbidden. Whether the rain came or didn't come, that's already considered quote unquote ad hageshem. Now, but let's say rain actually came. Already from the 17th of Cheshvan, which that's the earlier time of when rain usually comes. Hariza mutter, so then it's going to be permitted because the rain actually came. It's not any less actual rain than the season for the third rain, which we assume it's going to come. And if it doesn't come, we mutter, for sure an actual rain is going to be permitted. Now that's if he said atageshem. But if he said up until the rains, his intention is for that literally rains, that it should also be the second period, the season, the revia as it's called, of rain, which geshamim is in the plural, and therefore would sound like the second season. So the geshamim names forbidden up until that it rains, and also has to be from the second period of when it usually rains. Meaning, as the Gemara tells us, there's three periods of rains. There's the earliest, which is on the 17th of Cheshvan. There's the middle time, which is the 23rd of Cheshvan, and then there's the latest, which is Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Shu be'Eretz Yisrael, which again, this second period in Eretz Yisrael and the places near it are from the 23rd of Cheshvan and onward. So it has to be from that date, and it has to be rains. That's what Geshamim means. It's plural, so the second season. And it has to be that it actually rained. Now, but let's say specified, and he says, I want to be forbidden this thing until the rain stop. Then he's going to be forbidden he's going to be forbidden then until Pesach is done. If he's near Yisrael and the places which are like Eretz Yisrael. In contrast, let's say in Egypt, in Babel, where you don't need so much water, so then it's going to be permitted even earlier than that, which is whenever the rainy season is over. But in Eretz Yisrael, in a place like that, then it would be only after Pesach. Allah is regarding making his neder dependent stipulation regarding a specific date of time. So Mishahidris Ishtay b'macheshvan. If someone took a vow on his wife, on Cheshvan, and he said to her, She'inat nenesli, you're not allowed to have pleasure for me, mikan vad Pesach. From now, we're in the middle of Cheshvan, up until Pesach, that's the vow, but it's stipulated, it's dependent on, telchi lebeis avech ma'yim b'at sukkos. If you go to your father from today, in the middle of Cheshvan, up until Sukkos, so we past Pesach, past the summer months till Sukkos, if you go up until that point, so then from now you're forbidden up until Pesach. So she's not allowed to have benefit from him right away. Why? What do you mean? She's only forbidden if she ends up going. Yes, Xeritz or been decreased, that she might end up going. And because she's then going to go, then she's forbidden, so she can't have a pleasure already now. Now, if she went to her father's house before Pesach, and he gives her pleasure from before Pesach, so he's going to get lashes because he's violating his neder that he's not going to give her from his stuff up until Pesach if she goes before Sukkot. And not only she went before Sukkot, she went before Pesach. So it was a definitive violation. Now, Avar Pesach, let's say Pesach already passed. So although now the stipulation, meaning the punishment that he imposed on her, that he's not going to give her pleasure before Pesach, that already has passed already because it's a moot point, because the Isser is only up until Pesach, and she is already past Pesach. Still, he's not allowed to desecrate his vow, meaning that, because ultimately the vow was that she's not going to go to her father's house up until Sukkot. So he cannot desecrate to let her go and to give her pleasure. Meaning, since he's desecrating his neder and giving her pleasure before Pesach, so it's forbidden on him not to let her go to her father's house until Sukkot. So he has to go ahead and make it a second time that she should not have pleasure, not only now up until Pesach, but that if she ends up going, she's going to be forbidden even after Pesach, so that she doesn't go, because if she does go, turns out that he violated lo yachal, because he has no other medium to stop her from going, only if he goes and makes an Isra on her, and that by doing that, he's going to prevent now retroactively from violating his Isra bal yachal if she ends up going now after Pesach. Rather, he should still treat her as it's forbidden for her to have any pleasure from him up until Sukkot, as he had taken the neder that she shouldn't go, which was up until Sukkot. Now the Apish told neder be'isas mancha avar, and that even though he had made the neder dependent on a prohibition of a time that already passed, which was before Pesach, that's not going to exempt his neder, because ultimately he still has to treat his neder, which was that she's not going to go to her father up until Sukkot, which was that he's not going to give her pleasure, and if she goes now, although it's for something that already was, but again, he can't retroactively violate. There's anything that's similar to that. Now, Pesach, if she did go after Pesach, and he didn't give her pleasure before Pesach, so it comes out, he's not violating any neder, he's not desecrating any stipulation if she goes, then she's not forbidden to have benefit from him. Because although she's forbidden to go to her father up until Sukkot because of his neder, we're not going to be stringent to force him a second time that she shouldn't have pleasure with him, because ultimately he didn't violate his first stipulation, he didn't give her benefit before Pesach, so therefore in that situation, if she goes after Pesach, she's not going to be forbidden to have pleasure from him. Halacha Yud Gimel. Let's say Amarla, a similar case but different, he tells her before Pesach, but it's the inverse. She'enat nenis li adachak, that you're not going to be able to have pleasure from me, not up until Pesach as in the first case, but up until Sukkot. And here it's the other way. Im tolchi lebeis avich ad Pesach. If you go to your father's house up until Pesach, when the first case was you're not going to have pleasure from me up until Pesach if you go up until Sukkot. Here he's saying you're not going to have pleasure from me up until Sukkot if you go to your father up until Pesach. So asur lahanas miyad. So she not have pleasure from him right away. Again, there's a concern that she might go and he might give her pleasure. Now v'mholcha lefnei Pesach. Now if she goes before Pesach, and he gave her pleasure, he's going to get lashes because they're both within their time frame of where they're both applicable. And Vasur Baniyasa Adachag, and then she's forbidden to have pleasure from him up until Sukkot, which because she violated the stipulation of going up until Pesach, and he said that then she's forbidden up until Sukkot. Now, but but she's allowed to go to her father's household once it's already Pesach, because although she violated his stipulation, she went before Pesach, she's not forbidden to go after Pesach because that was not his neder on her to not go to our father. It was only not go up until Pesach. Once it's Pesach, so the time the neder is already passed, so there's no reason to stop her from going anymore to her father, and therefore, after Pesach, in this case, she's allowed to go to her father.